Good afternoon. I hope you're all well. I thought I would do another video to help liberate your mind. So here we go. Today we're going to be talking about emotional states. Now, emotions don't come from nowhere. They don't just happen for no reason, okay? They are the result of a combination of three factors. So the first factor would be your attention. In other words, what are you putting your attention on right now? So if you start thinking, for example, about a memory that isn't a particularly happy memory for you, you will then go up in your mind, you will create those images, and very shortly you will start to experience a physical response, which will be an emotion. So that's the first factor. The other factors are language. So you're very familiar probably with people that say things like, why does this always happen to me? Now that is a loaded question, okay? There's a lot of language in there, language patterns. Anytime someone's using words like always, why does it always happen to me? Or it never goes right for me, or it will always be like this, or all of these are called generalizations. It's when we are actually hypnotizing ourselves. And obviously when you're saying phrases like this, and this can be an internal self-talk, or it can be external. We've all heard people say phrases like that. And just to be made aware of it, very shortly after saying those expressions or those sayings or that self-talk, how do you feel? Generally, you're reinforcing that you're going to start feeling bad. And the last one then is your physiology. So you know what it feels like or looks like when someone is depressed. You see somebody, they're kind of slumped, their head's down, their eyes are down, their breathing's very shallow, it's very deep, they don't look, their face is sort of like this. And, when you start to sit like that and you're using it with a combination of the other two things, like when you're thinking about things that make you feel bad, when you're talking to other people and explaining that terrible situation and you're kind of then sitting in this kind of slumped way, or when you're anxious, you're breathing very shallow, your eyes are wide open, you're kind of guarding yourself, all of these kinds of things, they all add up. And think about it like this, your body doesn't know what's going on out here. It relies on certain physical cues and your language patterns and various other things in order to know which chemicals to release into the system. But the good news is that you can use these very same elements to change your state very quickly. So for example, and it seems obvious, but people don't realize they're in a bit of a funk when they're going round and round and thinking about these negative things. When you change where you're putting your attention, because the old saying of where your attention goes, your energy flows, it's that simple. When you put your attention on something that doesn't make you feel good, then of course what's going to follow is going to be that. So simple. You will then put your attention on something else. You will put your attention on something that makes you feel good, or you will think of an outcome. How many times, part of my work is I try to get people to realize what they're unconsciously doing and making it conscious so that they can make better choices. Now, when someone is focusing on what they don't want all the time, it's amazing to me how often people, and they obviously do it because they think if they think about all the things that could go wrong, or going over something, they can solve it or they can stop it from going wrong. But what you're really doing here is you're rehearsing. You wouldn't tell an Olympic runner to imagine and rehearse losing the race, right? So maybe back in the days when we were in the jungle and we didn't get a second chance to get it right, that would have been healthy. But it's very rarely life or death. And therefore it certainly doesn't help to focus on the negative. So we have to, as a society, start to focus on the solutions, what we do want, and focusing on things that make us feel good. And you can create anchors where you will think of an emotion or a memory that makes you feel really good, that creates those emotions, and then you will then do something like squeeze fingers to establish a connection that is a trigger to that response, until eventually you won't have to think about anything and you can just squeeze your fingers together. things are anchors all the time. When you smell your mum's cooking, it reminds you of all those good feelings. Or, you know, when you hear a certain song, it gives you those good memories. And so really, it's about focusing on what you do want. In terms of language, just being very mindful of the language that you're using. Like, for example, simple things like when someone says, "How you doing?" and you're saying, "Yeah, not bad." I mean, something that you need to be aware of is the mind doesn't do positive or negative, it just does the content, the words. So when you're saying not bad, you're saying bad. So what you could say, even something as simple as, because this is the thing, a lot of people say, well, I can't just lie to myself and start saying, I'm amazing, I feel great, I'm so confident, if you don't feel like that. So what you can say are on the way to things like, yeah, I'm getting there. Or, yeah, I feel pretty good today. Now, that is true, right? Your reticular activating system isn't going to wave a red flag. So if you don't feel great yet, then you can just say, well, yeah, I'm doing okay. Even okay is better than, yeah, I'm all right, I'm not doing bad. You know, you've got to start being more mindful about and obviously other people, like you can say when they say sorry for everything. I get this a lot when people say, I'm sorry. And you say, do you know you're saying sorry all the time? And they go, yeah, I'm sorry. So just be mindful of your language. The problem is that we are 95% of the time we're unconscious. We're just running our programs and our patterns, and we're not being mindful. Part of being mindful and why people practice and bang on about mindfulness is because when you make the unconscious conscious, you can start to change those behaviors, and you will be amazed at how simple but how powerful changing your language can be. So I'm just going to let you ponder on that and just start to notice throughout the day the kind of things that you say automatically. Like, I'm so stupid, or like these little throwaway comments that you say. What you're doing is hypnotizing yourself. What you're doing is keeping yourself small, and even with humor, you know, and it's like, oh, I don't mean it, but you know, your unconscious mind is always listening, and it's a 3-year-old, and you're conditioning yourself. So just bear that in mind. And then lastly, then physiology. Now, something that most people don't know is that when you are in control of your physiology, it's physically impossible. It's a powerful thing. It's impossible to feel bad. Like if you hold your shoulders back and you sit up straight and you're in a room, your physiology is going to win every time. Like if you actually sat there and you sat up straight and then you basically tried to feel bad, you would struggle. Like your body would want to collapse, but if you hold it and you keep doing what you're doing, it's very difficult for your mind to focus on two things at once. Something else you can do is actually smile, right? When you smile and it's an authentic smile, your body releases a load of chemicals because again, you can trick the system. When you change your physiology, your mood is going to change. It's just the way that it works. And your breathing. So one of the first things I teach anybody, the quickest way of changing your state is to breathe in a much deeper way, taking in more oxygen and breathing deeply out. It's like a sigh. It tells the amygdala the danger's past. So there's all kinds of breathing techniques you can do, meditation, things like that. And, you know, also just things like gratitude, things like kindness, all of these simple things that people kind of they don't know how important they are. When you're grateful for things, you actually shut off the part of your brain that houses all of those negative emotions. In other words, if you're being grateful and feeling grateful and focusing on those kinds of things, again, it's physically impossible for you to feel bad. Think about what that means. So you have a lot of, once you understand the recipe for making these emotions, you can change these elements in order to take back control of your emotions and therefore improve the quality of your day. So I hope that's been helpful. Have a great afternoon.